Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the amazing response you gave us. Yesterday, our live had so many views. There were so many comments. We are excited and happy. Thank you very much. This encourages us to do more and more good work for you. Thank you, guys. So today I'm back here with Ankita Ganguly from Kolkata.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
So we have prepared a lot of good questions. We will have a lot of good discussion on these questions. Are you ready, guys? I'm going to share my screen. Next study plan, Tarang, day 2, Shakespeare to Restoration. Okay, so I hope all of us will join. We'll have a good discussion, and we will start with the first question. This is the period when the Spanish Armada was defeated. The spirit of nationalism was fostered, and Protestantism was established as the official religion of England. Which period is it? This is the period when Spanish Armada was defeated. The Spaniards were the most powerful people. They were defeated by the English. Spirit of nationalism fostered, and Protestantism was established as the official religion of England. Protestantism came in the period of Henry VIII. Which period is it? Everybody knows, I'm sure. Is it Elizabethan period, Jacobean period, Augustan period, or Victorian period? Some of you are beginners. I will explain for you. Ankita, tell us. Everybody knows. Which is this period?
Elizabethan period.
That is right. Elizabethan period is the heyday of Renaissance in England. I will explain a little bit, guys. In the Tudor period, there were lots of changes. The governments were benevolent. They were treating people in the best manner. There was a lot of nationalism. England was having its power over the rest of the world slowly. And Queen Elizabeth came to power. Queen Elizabeth was a very clever monarch. She managed the affairs very well. And during this time, there was widespread development in learning and writing. This was the golden age of English literature. Queen Elizabeth reigned from 1558 to 1603. I'm sure you know that this is the time of the university wits. This is the time of William Shakespeare. This is the time of Ben Jonson. This is the time of John Donne, Francis Bacon, etc. Okay, let us play a game. Oh, already. I will tell you the name of the books. You should tell me who are the authors. Okay. Timber or Discoveries Made Upon Men and Matter. Tell me in the chat box, guys. In the Elizabethan period, who wrote Timber or Discoveries Made Upon Men and Matter? It is, as you know, Ben Jonson. Very good, guys. Who wrote the little epic Hero and Leander? Hero and Leander. Who's the author? It is a university wit. You know him, the most famous university wit. It is Christopher Marlowe. All right. Anatomy of the World and Progress of the Soul. Do you know who wrote these books? Anatomy of the World and Progress of the Soul. Do you know, Ankita?
John Donne.
Yes, it is John Donne who wrote Anatomy of the World and Progress of the Soul. Do you know who wrote the utopian work, The New Atlantis? Everyone answer in the chat box. The New Atlantis is a utopian work. It shows an ideal college called Solomon's House. Ankita, tell them, who wrote The New Atlantis?
It was Francis Bacon.
Francis Bacon is correct. Okay. So Elizabethan period is such a brilliant period, guys. So many great writers. Last question. Who wrote Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit? Written in a prose style called Euphuism. Euphuism is the prose style. Euphuism, anatomy of wit. Tell me, everybody, who is the author? Ankita?
It was John Lilly.
Yes, guys, John Lilly was a university wit. Who are the university wits? John Lilly, George Peele, Thomas Lodge, Thomas Nash. Then who else, Ankita?
Robert Greene, John Lilly,
Robert Greene.
Huh.
Then Thomas
Uh,
Kidd did not go to any university.
No,
Then Christopher Marlowe.
Marlowe.
Christopher Marlowe. Okay, Christopher Marlowe died in Deptford, one place. In a drunken brawl, he had a fight with somebody. You know, somebody wrote A Dead Man in Deptford about Christopher Marlowe. Do you know anybody who wrote The Dead Man in Deptford? It was Anthony Burgess. Okay, you are wondering, why is she not moving the slide? Oh, okay, I will move the slide. Next question. Which among the following is not true about the Elizabethan period? Despite Renaissance and humanism, Elizabethan society was very primitive. Is it true, guys? Printing was very cheap and easily available. Is that true, guys? The Renaissance people had very ambiguous notions about gender and sexuality. Is that true? It must be true, because that is why there were disguises on stage. Always men acting as women, women acting as men. Actually, male actors were acting as women. And then they were in disguise as men. You understand? Which hunts were prevalent back then? Which of these is not true, Ankita?
I think it's option B. Printing was very cheap and easily available.
That's right. Printing was not cheap. Printing became cheap only in the 18th century when books became a commodity. 18th century was the time when colonialism was so rampant, raw material was easily available, reading public was there, and printing also was cheap. In the Elizabethan period, Elizabethan society was still primitive. People had ambiguous notion of gender and sexuality, which hunts were prevalent. Okay, moving on to the next question. Shakespeare, the absolute stalwart of the Elizabethan era, wrote all of these except Richard I, King John, Richard VIII, Henry VIII, or Henry IV, two parts. Which of these is not by Shakespeare? I am sure our YouTube babies know the answer. It is Richard I. Shakespeare wrote Richard II. Okay, Shakespeare wrote 10 history plays in all. Do you remember that? 10 history plays. King John and Henry VIII are not in any tetralogy, whereas Richard II, Henry IV, two parts, Henry V, that form the major tetralogy. Okay, Henry VI, three parts, and Richard III, that is minor tetralogy. All right, minor tetralogy, major tetralogy. Ankita, one question to you. Do you know who wrote the book Shakespeare's History Plays?
E.M.W. Tilliard.
Ta-da-dang, it is correct. E.M.W. Tilliard wrote Shakespeare's History Plays. E.M.W. Tilliard also wrote the Elizabethan World Picture. The Elizabethan World Picture, also by E.M.W. Tilliard. All right, guys, moving on to the next question. Shakespeare is an author on whose writings more critical works have been written than any other author ever. You got to tell me this one. Who edited the famous work, Political Shakespeare, Essays in Cultural Materialism? Oh, it must be a contemporary work. I am sure YouTube babies know the answer. Ankita, do you think they know the answer?
Yes, I think they know.
Yes. It is cultural materialism related to new historicism also. It is Jonathan Dollimore and Alan Sinfield. Ankita, Ankita, it is written here on the screen. So they know it already. They already said it. Okay, no problem. cultural materialism and new historicism, engaged with Renaissance period. They wrote a lot about Shakespeare and his contemporaries. Okay, there was Stephen Greenblatt also, the new historicist, who wrote Shakespearean negotiations. He wrote Renaissance self-fashioning. Remember, guys, contemporary Shakespearean criticism is very important. Edward Dowden, the first option here, he wrote Shakespeare, His Mind and Art. Okay, Elsie Knights wrote, How Many Children Has Lady Macbeth? All right, and Caroline Spurgeon, she was the first female academic in the Western world. Did you know that? Caroline Spurgeon wrote Shakespeare's Imagery. Shakespeare's Imagery. That is the book Caroline Spurgeon wrote. All right, let us move on. Which work among the following is the first critical account of the poems and early plays of William Shakespeare? The first ever critical account of William Shakespeare's plays and poems. Is it Alternative Shakespeare's, Palladius Tamia, Will in the World, or none of these? Alternative Shakespeare's, Palladius Tamia, Will in the World, or none of these? Tell me, guys. It is, I will tell you the answer this time, Palladius Tamia by Francis Mayers, where Francis Mayers talks about Shakespearean sonnets as sugared sonnets. He also talks about Shakespeare's plays. Alternative Shakespeare's is by John Drakakis. Will in the World, How Shakespeare Became Shakespeare. Very famous work by Stephen Greenblatt. Will in the World by Stephen Greenblatt. Stephen Greenblatt, I already mentioned, is a new historicist. Very good. Shall we move on, Ankita? Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think our students are loving this session, Ankita?
I think so.
Yes, if they are loving, what will they do? They will tang, 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 tang.
Like it.
Yes, please like the video, dear friends. Please share the video with your friends, okay? You all will have groups. If you share the video, it will be a great help for all of us. All right, thank you. Next question. Who among the following was the biographer of the worthiest knight that ever lived? Worthiest knight that ever lived. Ankita, tell us, who is that?
It was Sir Philip Sidney, who was the worthiest knight.
Correct. The worthiest knight that ever lived, Philip Sidney. He was a Christian humanist, right? And he was a courtier in Queen Elizabeth's court who wrote his biography. This man was also Sidney's friend. You two babies, type in the chat box A, B, C, D. Ankita, you two babies are saying C. Do you think it is the correct answer?
Yes, Falke Greville.
It is Falke Greville, who was the biographer of Philip Sidney, the worthiest knight that ever lived. Very good, isn't it? Yes. Tell me the important works of Philip Sidney. Easy question. Astrophel and Stella, Arcadia, and which was the critical work, Ankita?
Defense of Poetry or Poesy.
Apology
or Apology for Poetry.
Same, yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Apology for Poetry and Defense of Poesy. Same book, 2 titles. Right? Very good, dear friends. And which was the book by Philip Sidney written for Countess of Pembroke, his sister? Ankita?
Arcadia.
Arcadia was written for the Countess of Pembroke, guys. That is right. Very good. All right. And next question. Who among the following established the first English colony, Virginia? Virginia is also called Jamestown later in the New World. New World is America in 1584. Is it Sidney, Spencer, Raleigh, Puttenham? It was a man who was a pirate. He went around the world in his ship, looting ships also. Oh my God. Who was that, Ankita?
I think it was Walter Raleigh.
Yes, it is Walter Raleigh. Walter Raleigh was also a writer. Did you know that? He wrote a poem to Queen Elizabeth, Ocean to Cynthia. It is by Walter Raleigh, Ocean to Cynthia. Did you know that? Great. George Puttenham was a critic. Ankita, tell them, what is the book by George Puttenham?
The art of English poesy.
Ta-da-dang, correct. Hai. George Putenham wrote The Art of English Poesy. Very good. Which work among the following inspired Spenser's The Shepherd's Calendar? Is it Theocritus's Idylls? It was a pastoral poem, maybe. It did inspire. Or is it Virgil's Eclogues? That is also a pastoral poem. Yes. Or is it both A and B or none of these? You two babies, your turn. Tell us the answer. A, B, A and B. A, B, A and B. Yes, it is right. Both A and B. A and B. Okay. Ankita, Theocritus and Virgil were fathers of their own children. Apart from that, they were fathers of what?
Roman classicism.
No. They were fathers of what?
Oh, I don't know.
Ankita is in trouble. They are fathers of pastoral poetry.
Oh, हाँ,
Theocritus and Virgil are fathers of their own children and also pastoral poetry. Will you remember? Okay, that is easy. Shepherd's Calendar. Do you remember when it was written, published? Anybody? Ankita buddy?
no, I don't remember.
1579. Shepherd's Calendar is 1579. Same year as Stephen Gosson's School of Abuse. Okay, 1579. First book by Spenser, Shepherd's Calendar. Spenser wrote Complaints. Complaints is a book where there is Mother Hubbard's Tale. Prosopopoia or Mother Hubbard's Tale is a book by Spenser. Prosopopoia. What is the meaning of prosopopoia? Do you know? It means personification. Personification. And Spenser wrote 4 hymns. As soon as I ask this, do you know something, guys? As soon as I ask this in our offline class, one student is there, Momisha. She's from Assam. In Trivandrum, she is staying and attending our offline class. Momisha will immediately say, pagan love, pagan beauty, heavenly love, heavenly beauty. Those are the 4 hymns. Now all of you should remember, pagan love, pagan beauty, heavenly love, heavenly beauty. What are they called? They are called 4 hymns. Will you remember, everybody? Okay. And then Spenser wrote a poem about his own courtship of Elizabeth Boyle. And then he married Elizabeth Boyle. Which are the 2 works I'm talking about, Ankita?
Amority and Epithalamion.
Amority and Epithalamion. Amority and Epithalamion were published together. Okay, Amority is about his courtship of Elizabeth Boyle. Epithalamion is about his marriage of Elizabeth Boyle, right? Guys, activity time. Everybody type in the chat box everything that you know about Epithalamion and Amority. Type in the chat box everything that you know about Amority and Epithalamion. Yes, Amority had 89 sonnets. Epithalamion, 24 stanzas, each standing for the day, hour of the day. 365 long lines are there. Long lines, right? And 16 stanzas describe daytime, 8 stanzas describe nighttime. Everybody, you should sleep 8 hours at night. That is what Spenser is saying. Don't say, I have to study, so I did not sleep. Pagal ho jayenge. Don't do that, okay? You have to sleep and do smart work. Okay. So, Ankita, what is the answer to this?
I think it's both A and B.
Correct. A and B. Oh, both Theocritus' Idylls and Virgil's Eclogues inspired Shepherd's Calendar. Moving on, Earl of Surrey is a character. Arey yaar, look at Earl of Surrey. He's standing there posing for a picture. Earl of Surrey is a character in which work among the following? Is it Spanish tragedy, Rosalind, Groat's Worth of Wit, Unfortunate Traveler? In Unfortunate Traveler, there is Jack Wilton, who is the page or assistant of Earl of Surrey. Earl of Surrey and Jack Wilton are both going to Europe They are undergoing lots of misadventures in Europe, guys. You know what happened? At one point, you know what happened? Oh, people were tied up from trees because the people in one country in Europe, they wanted to cut open the foreigners to see what is inside their body. Ayyo! The people of one country, they were so much interested in anatomy, studying anatomy and physiology, etc. They wanted to cut open foreigners to study what is inside their body. And what happened is Jack Milton escaped. That is why unfortunate traveler, so many misadventures he had. This is a what kind of novel, Ankita?
It was the first picaresque novel.
The first picaresque novel. Picaresque novel is a story of a rogue who is journeying, who is traveling and talking about his adventures. Can you name picaresque novels, guys? Ankita, what is the picaresque novel by Henry Fielding?
It was Tom Jones.
Joseph Andrews and Tom Jones. Both are picaresque novels. Isn't it? Okay, Ankita. Who wrote Roderick Random, Peregrine Pickle, Humphrey Clinker?
Tobias Smollett.
Tobias Smollett is correct. Ankita, I am proud of you. You are answering. Very good, very good, very good. Okay. Next question to you is, Ankita, which are the picaresque novels written by Daniel Defoe?
It was Robinson Crusoe, then
No.
the
Okay. Robinson Crusoe has elements, but it is not properly picaresque novel.
Moll Flanders. Yeah. Then Captain
Roxana.
Singleton.
No. Moll Flanders and Roxana.
Huh.
Colonel Jack also picaresque.
Huh.
Okay. Dear friends, literary terms are important. You should read M.H. Abrams, J.A. Cudden, Chris Baldick. Okay. Look up literary terms. Very good, very good, very good. Next question. Which work of Francis Bacon among the following was published posthumously? Is it Novum Organum, Advancement of Learning, The History of the Reign of King Henry VII? Remember, Bacon wrote about Henry VII. Or is it Silva Silvarum? If you don't know, there is one thing you should do. What? Guess karo. Ankita, do you think they will say the answer?
Yeah, I
They
think
will.
they know.
Because our youth babies are amazing people, hardworking people. They will pass this exam. They know it is Silva Silvarum. In case you did not know, no problem. Now you know. Silva Silvarum was published posthumously. All these are works of Bacon. All right. Bacon also wrote essays, counsels, civil and moral. Very good. He is the one, this man, is the one against whom the conspiracy of the gunpowder plot was hatched in 1605. And he's also the one whose reign saw the replacement of Bishop's Bible with the authorized version of the Bible. Tell me, guys, who is this king? Is it Charles I, James I, Charles II, or George II? Who is that? Kalyani II should also be there. I am Kalyani the first. Okay. Any other Kalyani is there? You can be Kalyani the second. Okay. So who is this, guys? Is it Charles, James, Charles, George? You know it. Gunpowder plot is Jacobean period. James the first. Correct. James the first. Jacobean period. Authorized version of Bible is called King James Bible. Hai na? Right. 1611. Which play among the following parodies Marlowe's Tamburlaine the Great? Remember, guys, Tamburlaine the Great was a Scythian shepherd. Originally, that character was a shepherd. That shepherd became an emperor. Then shepherd became a bandit. Then bandit became an emperor. And there is a poor man becoming powerful in one of these plays. Is it Eastward Ho, or Blind Beggar of Alexandria, or English Traveler, or Old Fortunatus? Eastward Ho is written by Johnson, Marston, Chapman. Ben Jonson, Marston, and Chapman. Blind Beggar of Alexandria is written by Chapman. English Travelers written by Thomas Haywood. Old Fortunatus is written by Thomas Dekker. Ab bolo. The Blind Beggar of Alexandria is correct. That is the work where an ordinary man becomes powerful. Okay, guys. Next, Julia is Castruccio's wife and Cardinal's mistress. Cardinal and Julia. Julia is the play's stereotypical fickle female with constantly changing affections. Because first she loved her husband, then she loved the cardinal, then she loved Basola. And she is killed by the cardinal. The cardinal makes her kiss a poisoned Bible. Which is this play? The Honest Whore, The Roaring Girl, The Duchess of Malfi, The White Devil. Ankita, you got to tell us. They don't know. We don't know.
The Duchess of Malfi.
I was kidding. Everybody knows. The Duchess of Malfi. The Duchess of Malfi is where Cardinal Ferdinand, they are killing their sister, the Duchess. And Julia is a character. Will you remember now, guys? The Duchess of Malfi. You know, Ankita, in Duchess of Malfi, there is a mime scene.
Yes.
This cardinal is taking off his ceremonial hat and becoming a fighter. Mime scene. Okay, Ankita, rapid fire to you about Duchess of Malfi. Who's the author?
John Webster.
Ta-da-dang! In Duchess of Malfi, there are some voices coming out of a tomb. Whose tomb is it?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Duchess's tomb. It is from the Duchess's tomb. Duchess's tomb. Okay, that is it. And in Duchess of Malfi, somebody sends the Duchess wax figures of her family to make her think they are dead bodies. Who is that? It is her brother, Ferdinand. And Ankita, Ferdinand goes mad with lycanthropia. Oh, he becomes, what is that? Oh, who howls like?
It's the disease where he thinks that he's a wolf. Lycanthropia.
Lycanthropia, the disease where he thinks he's a wolf. That is Ferdinand in Duchess of Malfi. You won't forget, will you? Don't forget. Don't forget. Okay, next question. The faithful shepherdess. Her lover dies, one shepherd dies, but she remains faithful. It is a dash by this man, John Fletcher. John Fletcher wrote, what? Is it city comedy, revenge tragedy, pastoral tragicomedy? None of these. You two babies. Bolo, bolo. City comedy ano? Ado revenge comedy ano? Ado pastoral tragicomedy ano? Eda. It is pastoral tragicomedy. Pastoral tragicomedy. Faithful Shepherdess by John Fletcher. पता है जॉन फ्लेचर कोलैबोरेटेड विद समवन. किसके साथ कोलैबोरेट किया जॉन फ्लेचर? बोलो बोलो. Ankita, do you know?
It's Francis Beaumont.
Beaumont and Fletcher, correct. Another one, another collaborator is there. Shakespeare. Shakespeare also collaborated with Fletcher. Fletcher and Shakespeare together wrote Henry VIII and Two Noble Kinsmen. Beaumont and Fletcher, Shakespeare and Fletcher, both. ठीक है? All right. Okay. Which tract among the following attacked rhyme? Which tract attacked? One lyric poet is there, guys. He is writing in rhyme and he is saying a rhyme is bad. Is it in Art of English Poesy? Observations in the Art of English Poesy? Observations on rhyme? None of these. Art of English Poesy is by George Putenham. Observations in the Art of English Poesy is by Thomas Campion. Who wrote it? It is Thomas Campion. Observations in the Art of English Poesy. Will you remember, guys? Okay. Are you feeling bored? Am I boring you? If you are bored, write in the chat box. We are bored. If you are not bored, you should say enjoying. You can give us some hearts also. Okay. Which event among the following did not happen during the reign of Charles I? Charles the First के time पे नहीं हुआ. Which event? Is it Bishop's War? Bishop's War began before the Civil War. It is possible. Exclusion crisis. No. That happened in the time of Charles II, I think. Theaters were closed. हाँ, वो तो है, because Charles was in house arrest at that time. हुआ होगा. William Laud became the Archbishop of Canterbury. Charles the First created all the problems because of William Laud only. Arey yaar, I know the answer. It is exclusion crisis. Exclusion crisis happened in the time of Charles II. Charles II did not have legitimate children. The country, oh my God, was full of children of Charles. But they were all illegitimate. They were not the children of his wife. And there was no rightful heir. Charles wanted his brother James to become the heir. And the Whigs did not want this. The Whigs wanted to exclude James from succession because James was a Catholic. James was a Catholic. The Whigs did not want this. They tabled the exclusion bill. And there was such a crisis about, on the basis of this. Whigs and Tories are fighting. You know, Dryden wrote Absalom and Achitophel about exclusion crisis. Dryden wrote, it is not in the time of Charles I. Did you understand, everybody? Okay, moving on. Who among the following is a Cavalier poet? What do you think, Ankita? Is Robert Herrick a Cavalier poet? Yes or no? Bolo.
Yes, he was.
Robert Herrick is a Cavalier poet as well as a metaphysical poet. Both. Thomas Carew, is he a Cavalier poet, Ankita?
Yes, he was.
He also is Cavalier and metaphysical. Edmund Waller, have you heard of that, Ankita?
Yes. He was also a Cavalier poet.
Really? Then it was none of the above. Okay, guys, what is Cavalier poet? A Cavalier poet is a soldier who also wrote poetry. A Cavalier poet served Charles in the Civil War against the Roundheads. The Roundheads are the Puritans. Cavaliers are the soldiers of Charles. Will you remember that? Excellent. Paradise Lost. Many have hailed Satan as the hero of Paradise Lost. But who among the following declared the reader to be the real hero in Paradise Lost? Who said? Matthew Arnold, Christopher Ricks, Stanley Fish, John Dryden. You two babies, do you know? Some are telling the correct answer, Ankita. Of course, Ankita, you also know. Who is the author of?
It was Stanley Fish.
Yes, Stanley Fish is the author of Surprised by Sin, the reader in Paradise Lost. Stanley Fish wrote Surprised by Sin, the reader in Paradise Lost. Christopher Ricks wrote Milton's Grand Style, one book. Milton's Grand Style. Henna? Correct. Written at a time of great political turmoil. Oh, yo, look at his face. Written at a time of great political turmoil. That means civil war hua tha, Commonwealth established, protectorate happened, restoration also happened. Which of these books was written at that time as an argument for obedience to authority? Everybody obey authority. This is what the book said. Grounded in an analysis of human nature. Human nature, dekho, value, order, obey rules. Is it Religio Medici, Leviathan, Hydriotaphia, or Holy Living and Holy Dying? I don't know the answer. What a difficult question. Argument for obedience to authority. Kya hoga? Religio Medici. Religio Medici is by Thomas Brown. Leviathan is by Thomas Hobbes. Hydriotaphia or Urn Burial, again Thomas Brown. Holy Living and Holy Dying, Jeremy Taylor. Ankita, you got to help us. What is the answer?
It is Leviathan.
Thomas Hobbes's Leviathan, where the king's body is represented as the nation. Amazing. The temple is a collection of dash religious poems. Guys, are you feeling bored? You can tell us in the chat box, okay? The temple is a collection of religious poems by George Herbert. बाप रे कितने poems है इसमें? 100, 125, 150, 160. देखो देखो, subtitle is Sacred Poems and Private Ejaculations by Mr. George Herbert. Oh, George Herbert was so religious. He wanted to praise God so much that he wrote not 100, not 125, not 150, but 160 poems. So many poems. So religious he was. George Herbert, 160 poems, remember. ये कौन है? बैठा है घोड़े पे. Dash is the first great verse satire in English, written in octosyllabic couplets. Verse satire is A Tale of a Tub by Ben Jonson, Hudibras by Samuel Butler, Absalom and Achitophel by Dryden, Fairy Queen by Spencer. Fairy Queen तो नहीं होगा. ये कौन है? Fairy Queen में ऐसा कोई नहीं है. This is not Red Cross Knight or Guyan or Britomart or Triamond and Campbell or Artigal or Calidor. It is the first verse satire is written by Samuel Butler. So Hudibras by Samuel Butler. Octosyllabic couplets, remember? Dryden wrote dash supporting the Roman Catholic Church. Pehle to Dryden was a Protestant. At that time, he wrote Religio Laici. Then he became a Catholic. At that time, he wrote The Hind and the Panther. Is that correct, Ankita?
Yes.
What do you mean by hind? Deer. Deer, deer. Deer, na deer. That is D-E-E-R. The hind is going like this. Roman Catholic Church is going like this. Panther is coming and attacking the hind. What is the panther? Anglican Church. Roman Catholic Church is the hind and panther is the Anglican Church. Will you remember? Okay. Apollyon is a monster in which work? He is a foul monster. Is it in Leviathan? Country Mouse and City Mouse, The Pilgrim's Progress, or The Castle of Indolence. Leviathan is by Thomas Hobbes. Country Mouse and City Mouse is by Matthew Prior and Charles Montague. Pilgrim's Progress is by John Bunyan. Castle of Indolence is by James Thomson. What is the answer, Ankita?
It is the Pilgrim's Progress.
In the Pilgrim's Progress, who is fighting Apollyon, Ankita?
Christian. I think Christian fights the monster.
Correct. Christian in the first book of Pilgrim's Progress, right? In the second book, we have Christiana and Great Heart. And where is Christian going? From City of Destruction to which place, Ankita?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem or Celestial City. From the City of Destruction to Celestial City. The Rover is a novel by Joseph Conrad. Okay. But it is also a play by Colley Cibber, Afra Ben, Eliza Haywood, George Farquhar. I will give you a clue. The author wrote Letters from a Nobleman to His Sister. The author also wrote Urunoko. It is Afra Ben who wrote Letters from a Nobleman to His Sister, The Rover, and also Urunoko. Afra Ben, the first professional poet in English, woman poet in English. Okay? And the last question, the infamous China scene. China means these kind of ceramic pots and all. And in that play, you won't believe this, guys. China is used for a lot of vulgar double talk. They talk about sexuality and very many vulgar things in this China scene. That is why it is infamous. It is a restoration comedy. Is it Way of the World? Country Wife, love in a wood, or love's last shift? Bolo. Do you know what is the answer? Do you know by any chance, Ankita?
I think it's The Country Wife by Vaishali.
It is right. The Country Wife by Vaishali is a play that is prescribed. It is about Horner trying to seduce women. And one innocent woman, Marjorie Pinchwife, is seduced by him, and it is actually allegory. He is making, Vaishali is making fun of the upper classes and their stupid, immoral practices. Okay. So restoration comedy is also very important. I hope you liked this video. It is late night, 10 o'clock, and you will be tired and about to sleep. That is why we put a lot of drama into it. And second reason for putting drama is you will remember all this easily. That is why, okay, please forgive me for not being a serious teacher. Okay, some of you will think, what is she doing? Why is she doing all this? She should teach seriously. Sorry, guys. It is just to help those who cannot remember easily, those who are feeling sleepy. Okay, thank you. We will be back with more. Until then, bye. From me and Ankita.
Bye. Good night.
Bye. I am stopping the screen share. We are saying bye in person. Remember to like the video. Remember to share with friends. Remember, most importantly, to join us tomorrow. Bye.